And what I really, I mean, this is where the reflection point comes, that for women to become fearless, their background, their foundation has to be that strong too. When you talk about families and families doing those unconventional things, looking at all the statistics, and you worked with some of the leading global companies, that where is the woman lagging? Like only 7% of representation of women in leadership roles. That's dismal. Where is it? So we as a society are failing, and this is not Indian figure, this is global figure, right? So what's happening out there?
I think every woman is essentially a multitasker, because you're not just doing a job. You're also a mother. You're also running a household. You're a daughter-in-law. So you've got that huge amount of, I won't say baggage, but that other stuff that you have to focus on. For a man, typically you go to work, you do your job, you come back, then you sit back, you watch TV, you read the newspaper. Maybe now things are changing, but in when I was younger and through the years, maybe not what I experienced myself, because I've been fortunate. My husband has been a solid partner throughout. This is the usual story. So for a woman who's doing a million other things in addition to her job and showing up for her job and doing that job, somewhere I think it's really remarkable, but I don't think it always gets recognized.
Yeah. Something that you regret in life?
Oh, I ask myself that question every once in a while. No regrets.
No regrets?
No regrets.
Beautiful.
No regrets.
Super.
You have to be forgiving of yourself to get to the point where you don't have regrets.
Yeah. Welcome to Unbound Specials, yet another episode, yet another unfiltered and unstoppable human today with us. As you know, ये particular series हम curate कर रहे हैं women entrepreneurs, women change makers, leaders और experts के साथ. और आज जो show पे आई हैं, who is gracing our studio today, again, a profile which we have never ever highlighted or spotlighted before. She is a growth and a business strategist with 3 decades of experience under her belt. She loves to call spade a spade. मैं उनके बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं बोलूँगी, and I will let her do her introduction. That's Rakhi Hana. Welcome to the show, Unbound.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We are so happy to have you. Thanks for giving us this opportunity.
Absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation, actually.
100%. And tell us what you do, Rakhi, how you are creating and making a dent out there.
Oh, you're asking me to summarize a 33-year career in a few sentences, and I'll try my best.
Sure.
So I have worked in corporate for most of my life, worked with brands and retailers like Target, Levi's, Ralph Lauren. And it was in 2021, March of 2021, during COVID, my position was eliminated with the restructuring in the company, and I decided to retire at that point. People started reaching out to me from across the globe and asking me for my help to work on a project basis. So, in fact, my first client was somebody based in LA who had production and manufacturing in China, and they had quality and other issues, system and SOP issues in China, and they didn't know how to fix it. And I'm like, I'm sitting in India. This is 2021. We are in complete lockdown. And I'm like, I can do it virtually, but are you okay with me doing that? And they said yes. And, that's literally how my consulting practice began. And it expanded across industry. So I'm kind of industry agnostic. So operations is something that I can do with my eyes closed. It's it's what I've grown up doing, literally, because I started right at the bottom, which was in the execution and operations and manufacturing. And as I grew through my career, I got into bigger roles, larger organizations, and got into a position where strategy became a key component of what I did.
Yeah, so I would come to that part. We don't want to fast pace this episode, but really, I mean, what really interested me about your profile, about your work, is how you worked your way up, and how you have at every point, done something which was never done before. You didn't have a blueprint, or you didn't have a document to go to. Women in those spaces of leadership where you've reached, the sectors that you have touched, we don't see them often out there. What kind of kept you moving, and what was it like a thought through thing that this is how I want to step by step etch it out for myself?
Interesting question. So, it would go into the personal. I have to talk about my upbringing, and I have to talk about my
100%.
parents, and I
Yeah.
have to talk about how my sister and I, we're two sisters.
Mhm.
So, my father was in the army, and in
Mhm.
1965, during the war, he lost a leg. He stepped
Oh.
on a landmine,
Oh.
and his career literally came to an end. So, at that stage, my mom was a teacher,
Mhm.
and they realized that making sure that we
Yeah, please.
immediately get emotional.
I understand that. Yeah.
uh, making sure that we were not
please get some
only
water if you want.
making sure that we were not only capable of looking after ourselves. So for us to have a profession and a career was critical for my parents,
Mhm.
but also to have the ability to look after our families if that situation ever arose.
Right.
So we've both been brought up like that. And I think the other piece which has been critical is my mother used to always tell us, do your best and forget the rest.
Mhm.
So don't worry about the outcomes. Whatever you do, you have to do your best. So shortchanging, taking shortcuts, not giving it our best was really not an option.
Mhm.
And my parents were our role models.
Mhm.
So, when you see the way we've been brought up and the struggles that I've seen my parents live through, but done it very transparently. We've all been part of it, and we've been part of the decision making. And, how can you not
Sure.
follow in those footsteps?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emotional
Absolutely.
component to,
Absolutely.
where I am today. And therefore, being fearless, being not worrying about what people say. My dad used to always tell us, तुमको जो करना है तुम करो, तुम दुनिया की मत सोचो. We are there. We support you. If you are doing the right thing and if you truly believe what you are doing, we will always support you.
Mhm.
So I think, my parents have broken barriers. They've done things very differently, and unko dekhte dekhte, we followed in their footsteps.
Yeah, that's a very, very beautiful anecdote that you actually shared with us, and much respect and love for that. And what this is where the reflection point comes, that for women to become fearless, their background, their foundation has to be that strong too.
Yes.
So when you talk about families and families doing those unconventional things, what do you think? I mean, looking at all the statistics, and you worked with some of the leading global, companies, that where is the woman lagging? Like only 7% of representation of women in leadership roles. That's dismal.
Yeah.
And where is it? So we as a society are failing, and is it? And this is not Indian figure. This is global figure, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening out there?
So a couple of things. First of all, I think it starts with who we are as women and what we have to do. I think every woman is essentially a multitasker, because you're not just doing a job. You're also a mother. You're also running a household. You're a daughter-in-law. So you've got that huge amount of, I won't say baggage, but that other stuff that you have to focus on.
Yeah.
For a man, typically you go to work, you do your job, you come back, then you sit back, you watch TV, you read the newspaper. Maybe now things are changing, but in when I was younger and through the years, maybe not what I experienced myself, because I've been fortunate. My husband has been a solid partner throughout. But this is the usual story. So for a woman who's doing a million other things in addition to her job and showing up for her job and doing that job, somewhere I think it's really remarkable, but I don't think it always gets recognized.
Yeah.
The other component also is, the reality is that, in organizations, I think there is still to some extent the belief that, men will show up, they'll have their full focus on the company, on the work, they'll be able to give their 100%. Women get distracted. Sometimes there's a pregnancy, sometimes there's a child. There's other stuff that's going on. I think as much as progress is taking place, and I've seen a lot over the decades, there is some residual effect of that. Although I do believe that companies are making the effort and they are trying to, push the, diversity and getting in diverse leaders. I also think there is that boys club concept. So
which we spoke about. Yeah.
Correct. We talked about it. So culturally, if the company I find has a good culture, is professional, is respectful, you'll see women in the forefront. For companies which are cutthroat, which don't really focus on culture, where, anything goes, you will probably find fewer women in leadership.
Coming to your personal sort of contribution there, because you've held some of these roles yourself, right?
Yes.
And you've also been working with leadership and mindsets.
Yes.
Who are actually the cause of defining these cultures too. How are you making a difference? How are you ensuring that women get that seat at the table?
Oh, I've been avidly, aggressively pushing, the hiring and the focus on women from day one, from the time that I became a manager through my career. I think that I have always championed the cause of women. And here's how I would say it. If I had two candidates, a man and a woman, who perform equally, I would probably sort of lean towards the woman candidate. Here I'm making a very specific distinction that capability has to be at par. You don't make compromise on capability.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think women are more steady. They are more committed, more disciplined. You give an instruction to a woman, it is more likely for it to be followed. And I think that particularly in the profession that I have been, which is operations, manufacturing, women engineers were not known. I was, I think, one of maybe 4 or 5 women back in the 90s who were in this profession. But, as the years passed, I would come across the odd woman. When we were hiring, I would tell specifically my HR, go out into the universities and colleges, engineering institutes, look for women, hire women. I want women industrial engineers. I want women mechanical engineers, production engineers. And, we found gems. So, a few years ago, about maybe a decade ago, I was hiring for my team in Bangladesh. And I wanted to hire a woman in Chittagong. And the MD of the office was actually a Pakistani gentleman based in Dhaka.
Okay.
So I had interviewed a lot of candidates, and each time I would compare this woman candidate. I had one woman candidate. And I'd make that comparison, and she would still come out the better candidate. She had 1 year of experience. She was an industrial engineer. And I told the MD that, I want to hire this woman. And he laughed and he said, you're making it very difficult for me. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, no, I'll have to make sure that there is security for her, that, she doesn't work late in the factories. But I said, come on, you have to do this. And he was like, chalo. Wow. I'll interview her and let's see how she is. So he did the second interview because she had dotted line reporting to him. And of course, he was the MD of the office. And he came back and he said, yep, let's hire her.
Wow.
And it was incredible because I've hired the first woman in Bangladesh in the team. I hired the first woman in our team of engineers in Pakistan. In India, I've been the first woman and then brought on other women. And I think it's really important for women also to have the confidence to be in this space. I think women, they're so amazing. They do such good work. But somewhere I feel there's also a lack of confidence.
Okay. And which is obviously probably mostly is coming from the conditioned mindsets that they're coming from, that तुमसे ये नहीं हो पाएगा, ऐसे कैसे कर सकते हो, या there is no precedence that is set. But I do see that sparkle in your eye when we talk about women in leadership and advocating it with
sure.
such heart. We definitely need many more people like you to be really taking the bull by the horn and making that change that we so often are saying that we want to see in the world. But again, putting the lens back on your personal journey, you've been a meritorious, kid who is kind of outshone at every level, and from history, gold medalist in history to where you are today. ये जब आप अपने academic growth path पे होते हैं, तब तो आपको पता नहीं होता है कि the wave will turn and this is where you will land. But again, the question is that how and when did you start realizing that you did have the acumen to continue to do what you were doing and how you were pivoting?
So I was actually, interesting question, because I was going down the path of academics.
Yeah.
And
which is obvious, given your history.
I had enrolled for MPhil, and my sister and my father, my elder sister, kind of decided that I was just burying myself in academia, and they wanted me to get out into the real world. So they sat me down and they said, work for 1 year, take a sabbatical, work for 1 year. If you want to go back into academics, of course, you've got the rest of your life. So I took that 1 year off, and it just so happened that the DUTA, Delhi University Teachers Union, was on strike that year. So there were no classes. So I took that break.
Yeah.
And my father actually got me a job in a small little manufacturing unit. And for me, there was no going back. So I just did what I had to do. In those days also, the upbringing and the thought was, you get a job, you earn a living, you generate income for yourself.
First is survival.
Progress.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think by the time I was about 4 or 5 years in, I was doing well. So again, that going back to my mom's philosophy of do your best and forget the rest, I think that was such an integral part of getting me to that focus on excellence always.
Wow.
So, that kind of took me forward. I consider myself lucky. I joined a company where I was the second employee. And a month after joining, the person who was setting up the office, she left. So I was literally left holding the baby. And eventually I took on the leadership role in that company. So that was an accident.
So you were in the deep end right from the start.
Deep end, yeah. And then, of course, in my 30s, I kind of wanted to upskill. I did my Six Sigma Black Belt certification, which is like a problem-solving methodology based on data and analytics. And that was actually when I discovered my love for numbers and my aptitude for data and numbers and being able to see patterns.
Then you could see why I was so good at history, because I would remember all the data.
Correct.
It all suddenly makes sense.
It's the numbers.
Super.
Yeah.
All right. So coming to the kind of work that you're doing today, of course, a lot of noise is there, but keeping a sharp eye and vision of what matters, strategy, and then percolating down to operations, bridging that gap, and being pretty much excellent at both of it. How does that happen? And again, is this something that you've learned in the process of doing more, or is this, again, you had to reskill, upskill? What did you have to do to come where you have today with so much of sharpness?
So, again, I have to give credit to my upbringing and my parents. I think the whole concept of planning comes from what you learn intuitively. Today in the IB schools, they teach you how to plan. They teach you critical thinking. For me, I think literally that, of course, we
learn from the ropes. Yeah, totally.
And it was whenever my parents sat down to work on something, my mom started planning. She would, her notebook and her pen and her lists would come out.
Wow.
And we used to laugh and call it mom's lists. But really, that's your basics of planning. And planning is really what strategy is all about. I can ask you, where do you want to go? I want to, fly. I want to touch the moon. And then how are you going to get there? So breaking it down and doing that planning component, I think a lot of that comes what we've learned in our upbringing intuitively. I think also that as I progressed through my career, I had the opportunity to work on larger and larger roles. And as that happened, again, there was a big strategy component each time in terms of, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. Now, how are we going to do it? So being able to break that down, I think was really important. And I have to say that my master's in history, my back education did make a difference because with history, you learn analysis. And I'm talking back in the late 80s, early 90s, where that analytical thinking was not something that was embedded in the education system. But I think because I did my bachelor's and my master's and I was a very sort of sincere student, there was a lot of learning that I took away from my education.
So has this triggered any story, idea or thought in you? Or do you have a story to tell yourself? Then reach out to me at Unbound with Mamta. Write to me at unboundwithamtaa@gmail.com या फिर किसी भी हमारे एपिसोड, स्टोरी, रील या शॉर्ट्स को लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब करें. Keep watching Unbound with Mamta. Yeah, but I would also now want to go a little more dive deeply into it. That so you were learning the ropes because there was a very set foundation and basics of looking into minute details, planning, and then but how do you broaden the lens and then narrow the lens is what I really want to come to. That how do you keep the macro picture and then get down to breaking it at micro level? Is this a skill that one can learn, or are there trainings that you have to undergo? And then where do you choose? Where do you make an independent choice that maybe not this, but this is what it is for me? So what's the process is what I want to understand. So too complicated a question.
It's a difficult question for me to answer because it has always come to me intuitively.
Oh, okay.
So I've always found it very easy to jump from big picture to getting into the details. So it's very easy to get into the details and then for me to drill it down to the micro from an execution implementation standpoint.
So then we can say you are an inborn talent with that.
I would say it's a thinking preference.
Yeah.
But I also feel that it can be learned.
Yeah.
So it is again about literally starting with, okay, I want to get to the moon. Now, how am I going to get there? What is it going to take me to get there?
Like day on day, what steps that needs to be
taken? And then you just keep making notes and you keep drilling down and you write your points. So there's the process I follow is, okay, this is what we want to do. Okay, let's talk about how we are going to get there. And, you don't have to do it in any particular order, but you have to just think through everything. Possible. And you have to think about, okay, what are the other factors that are going to impact this particular decision? And think through all of that and put it down on, I literally, for me, the paper and pen is very important. And as you go deeper and deeper, you'll start asking your questions. And then the last thing that I do is prioritize. So once you've got like those 100 things on a list, then you prioritize. And I would always prioritize with, maximum impact, minimum effort. If something is going to have a huge impact and is going to take a minimum effort, I'd obviously prioritize that. If something is going to be very little effort, but also very minimum impact, does it really make sense for me to even make that little effort on that? So that prioritization piece becomes really important when you are trying to plan and build your action plan on how you want to move forward. So it's very much, I think, can be a learned skill. And I have actually this person who was she used to work with me and she was really good, really, really good at execution, but lacked that strategy piece of it. And then over a period of 3 years, because we were talking about her development and she was fantastic at execution. It was about teaching her how to think big picture.
No.
But I think also a big component is there has to be a desire from
it has to be a learner attitude for sure, right?
For sure.
Okay. So most founders today are kind of overestimating their strategy and definitely underestimating their operations. How, I mean, when you work with someone, be it a corporate or a leader, so there is a part which is process,
Yeah.
which is impacting the whole system.
Yeah.
And then there is a leader style or leader thinking design.
Yeah.
Where do you find the intersection and how do you really translate those strategies and help the corporate as well as the leader?
So I roll it back a little bit
Hmm.
from there and start by saying
Because
that,
you're fighting two things here, right?
Yeah.
Simultaneously.
Yes. Yes. So in most cases,
Yeah.
what I realize is that the business owner or the decision maker has not really thought about their strategy. Or forget about strategy, they don't even have a vision.
Hmm.
If I ask, and this is what I usually start with, I always ask.
You would ask me those questions today.
It's like, what's your vision? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Hmm.
If you just pause and ask that question,
Yeah.
people are like, okay, I haven't thought about that.
it. Yeah.
कि कर रहे हैं तो कर रहे हैं, चल रहा है. Because also in a lot of the cases, business owners are also doing a lot of firefighting.
Correct.
Now, when you get to a certain size and scale, so let's say, the average I'd say is 100 crore minimum size of a business and beyond. Now, you would expect to have a certain size of, team. You would have certain processes. You're just beginning to set out processes by the time you're a 100 crore company. In a 100 crore company also typically, and this is general, I'm sure there are a lot of exceptions, but in my experience, a lot of the decision making is still owner driven.
Oh.
So the business owner or the person who is the key decision maker has to be very clear about what they want to accomplish. And that one person, I think businesses do themselves, or business owners make the mistake of wanting to make the decision in every area. So you have to, if there's HR, you're making the decision. If it's marketing, you're making the decision. If it's an execution issue, that you're making the decisions, operations. There are so many things that you need, finance, legal. So it's not physically possible for one person to be everywhere. So I think it's really important for the business owner to think about, okay, what is it that I'm willing to delegate? And when you delegate, you don't have to delegate everything. Let's say you decide that you want to delegate marketing and you will handle operations. You hire somebody, pay that little extra money, get somebody who's really good and who has the ability to execute to your strategy and plan. So I think making sure that whether it's a corporate or whether it's an individual, sitting down to ensure that they have a vision for themselves, they have a strategy, and then they have the ability to recognize where they need to be hands-on and where they need to be able to delegate.
Yeah.
I think this is the starting point where I think businesses either succeed and grow or they stay at status quo.
Yeah. So two things that hit me hard here. One is that this whole glorification of heroism, that I'm everywhere and I'm doing everything, CEO or owner or MD, that definitely needs to be busted now. One has to, really firm up and say that this is not my competence. But as a leader, as a visionary, or as the creator of, that ecosystem, where do you think it gets lost? Because I think when you take up anything which is your own and you're taking it to now first generation and second generation, you still do they usually define it out for themselves that how am I personally growing?
Sometimes, yes. I feel that for a business owner, especially somebody who has set up their own business, it's very hard to let go because it's your own baby. it's like you've literally nurtured, you've created this entity and you've built it to this point.
So
it's
letting go is
very
difficult.
hard. Letting go is very difficult.
Yeah.
The other piece is when the next generation comes in, I think it is about the ability of the next generation to be able to recognize that, yes, the previous generation has brought the business to this level. What can I do now, or what should or can change? Because, there's a saying, what got you here isn't taking you there. So if you've come to this point, it doesn't mean that you continue to follow this path. You may decide that, yes, I'll follow this path and I won't grow further, and that's fine. But I think, again, truly driven where the next generation has the empowerment and the ability to bring change and the desire to bring change, it will definitely take that quantum leap to the next level.
You've seen stages of yourself in your own career, the passionate 20s, then a bit of maturity setting in with 30s, 40s is like a total rediscovery, 50s is when you are in that midlife, and then there is your biology that is kicking in. I want to specifically ask women who are making a restart or a reset in their careers at this point, where they may be in their 50s and there's menopause and there's biological clocks and everything. How do they keep it all together? Or what should they really focus on at that point? What should really be their priority?
So I think by the time you get to your 50s, probably even 40s, pretty much women tend to get very focused on everything else around them, managing the home, managing the children, exams, boards, in-laws. So by the time you're at this age, you're pretty much an empty nester. You're also at the age where now your older generation, parents, in-laws are, require a lot of care and caregiving, and that starts to become another challenge. So it's a very brief period between when your children leave and when your parents and in-laws start needing a lot of support.
Correct.
I think women make the mistake of not giving themselves self-care. And I've made the same mistake. So when my son he was born late. I have one child. He was born quite late. I was in my late 30s when he was born. So by the time I was in my mid 40s, my life was only about work and home and child and in-laws. And so I was talking to somebody and she asked me, so, what do you do for yourself? What's your me time? And I'm like, I don't have any me time. From the time that I wake up to the time that I go to sleep,
it's all about others.
I'm full on.
Yeah.
So, that was a very interesting conversation that I had, because I actually came back and I reflected, and that's when I started running. And the running was like, I'd wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd go out and I'd run for half an hour. Wow. This was when we were in Bangalore. And that was started by being my me time. And just the small little things, nurturing yourself, because you have to start, like they say in an aeroplane, first put on your own mask before you help others. It's the same thing with life. Put on your own mask first, nurture yourself. How will you otherwise nurture others?
True.
And I think we all make the mistake and we don't do it enough.
Yeah. And of course, women health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, all of it. What's your one piece of advice that you want to give to women of today who's hustling, crushing, balancing, sometimes maybe even overachieving? What is that one thing that you want to leave them with as a piece of thought, as a piece of inspiration, or just as a piece of rewiring themselves, that what is that they need to look out for to be for a sustained growth, for a sustained career?
So, I will say every woman for me is a superwoman.
Wow.
Every woman. And it is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make big mistakes. Believe me, I made them. Blunders. It's okay to acknowledge those mistakes. the most important thing is to have the ability to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward.
Wow. So choose yourself, gal, over
Yes.
and over and over again.
Absolutely. For sure.
Awesome. Awesome. So that pretty much brings us to the fag end of the show. But right before we call it the wrap, we have this rapid reflex, quick rapid fire round.
Okay.
There aren't any hampers to be won though. But I'm sure kuch jaldi hoga. We will have you again for a hamper. But just quick volley of questions. First thought, first prompt, whatever hits you.
Okay.
Maybe a sentence or a word. You're
Sure.
not getting any time to think about it. Are
Okay.
you ready for this?
I hope so.
Okay. Never have you ever. Just complete the sentence for me.
Never have I ever fallen down and not gotten up,
Metaphorically.
metaphorically. Physically also.
Of course.
Sorry, I took a little time to think
No,
about
that's
that.
fine. Pauses are fine. Pauses are fine. If not for who you are and where you are today, what would Rakhi Handa have been? Any second choices on yourself?
I think I would have been a writer.
Oh,
I'm very fond of writing.
prolific one, I'm sure.
I've written a lot, yes.
Oh,
Never,
excellent.
I've published articles, I've written a book,
Yeah.
haven't really gotten around to getting it published.
Yeah. But next time, maybe we
yeah.
are having you for that reason.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows?
See, इसमें से audio book तो बनी जाएगी.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. First thing, which is like a morning ritual for you, like before even you kickstart your day, what is that must-do thing for you?
Oh, I get up and have a bottle full of water.
Oh,
I start my day with that water.
nice. And a bedtime ritual, which is a must to follow.
You know, I think it's not so much a bedtime ritual as a thought.
Okay.
When I lie down in bed and the lights are off, I think, what did I learn today?
Oh.
Was there anything new that I learned?
Oh.
It could be a recipe. It could be a game.
Wow.
It could be some learning that I've had.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, it's really, I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
It's really important for me to say, अच्छा आज कुछ नया सीखने को मिला.
Wow. I think this should be your hashtag, yeah. अच्छा मुझे आज कुछ नया सीखने को मिला.
Like Rancho says in Three Idiots.
Yeah.
क्या किसी ने पूछा?
Yeah.
आज कुछ नया
नया
सीखने को मिलेगा.
मिलेगा.
That so resonated with me.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What kind of a person are you? Traveler or someone who likes to sit back and just retreat?
So I think a mix of both.
Okay.
I like to, when I'm in relaxation mode, I like to be in my own space and just be. And I've spent decades traveling prolifically. So when I want to be in my own zone, then it's about being in my home and just absorbing the joy I get from the four walls of my home.
Oh, how sweet.
And the exercise. I
Yeah.
think it gives me great joy. And my husband and I work out together. We go
Yeah.
to, we CrossFit.
Yeah.
And you know, that also is the community there, and
Yeah.
the workout really energizes you.
Yeah. All right. So books, movies, theater, audio, video. What kind of a person are you?
Books and theatre.
Books and theater. So
Yeah.
your favorite on the shelves, like or the books that you keep going back to?
So my favorite book of all time is, there are two actually. One is called Mr. God, This Is Anna, which is a very little known book.
Fiction?
And the other one is To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Those are my two all-time favorites. There was a time when I used to read To Kill a Mockingbird once a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it'll be different each time, right? The
Yeah.
interpretation, the learning, everything,
Yes.
it'll be different. Oh, interesting. What does food mean to you? Water, I have understood what it means to you. What does food mean to you?
Food for me is my creativity.
Okay.
It's creativity. I love cooking. I love eating, but I'm very adventurous. So food for me is almost like nourishment for the soul.
Oh.
And it gives me great joy to try new recipes, to experiment. And I do a lot of experimentation. So I just make up my own recipes, and I love doing
how
all of
lovely.
that world cuisine. So love food.
Super. So
Yeah.
food is soulful and food is experiment, right?
Yes.
Oh, super.
Creativity.
Creativity, yes. Innovation and
Yes.
creativity. So, something that you regret in life? Just one thing?
Oh, I ask myself that question every once in a while. No regrets.
No regrets?
No regrets.
Beautiful.
No regrets.
Super.
I think you have to be forgiving of yourself
Selves,
to get to the
yes.
point where you don't have regrets.
Yeah. Something which has been a biggest unlearning for you. Like you had to unlearn it to be where you are today.
Just, I think, not be so direct in the way that I speak. It's like my husband says I'm ta. So I have to learn to choose my words carefully. And
Yeah.
sometimes I even have learned to prompt the person I'm speaking to that, okay, I have to choose my words very carefully.
Oh, wow.
So just making sure that I'm being mindful of how I tell it like it is.
Yeah.
But it's important to do it gently.
Yeah. So, guys, next time you hear a spade, may mean a spade, but may not mean a spade too.
Oh, God.
The way that you heard it.
Complicated, yeah.
Very, very
Very
interesting. And something that you want to say to your 20-year-old self now as you look back.
That, it's okay. You'll get there in the end.
Oh. How sweet. And any line that सबका होता है ना एक तकिया कलाम कुछ ऐसा है आपका मतलब for me it is like I hope you understood or I hope are you getting it what I'm saying so do you have any such तकिया कलाम?
I probably do, but I don't remember anything offhand. Probably just take a deep breath. Actually, the way we
Or maybe
say
others
it is,
know it.
probably. So the one that we do is deep breathly. So actually you say breathe deeply. So we say deep breathly.
Okay.
And it's very funny.
Deep
because,
breathly.
Yeah. So it was like I was telling my husband, breathe many decades ago. Breathe deeply. He says, I am deeply breathing.
Breathe deeply.
So mazak mein we say deep breathly.
Deep breathly. Okay. What would that be?
Just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Give yourself that pause. Take a deep breath.
Yeah. Next time you hear that, you also know what it means.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I think you've really come unfiltered, unbound on this conversation. Let's keep unbounding together.